Wizards of the Coast is hard at work putting the finishing touches on their new Commander power level ranking system, probably with the goal of having it ready for MagicCon Vegas in just a few weeks. They've already shared some information about this new 4-tiered bracket system, where the most powerful cards in your deck determine which power level bracket your deck falls into. In my own video from a few days ago, I expressed some concerns about how successful these brackets will be at accurately describing the power level of a given Commander deck. Now, of course, it's still way too early to say with any certainty, as the full bracket system has yet to be revealed and outlined by Wizards of the Coast. In fact, Gavin has expressed a desire to hear community feedback to help them shape this new system, and that is exactly what this video is, and yet, it isn't about the bracket system. Not exactly. You see, the subject of creating a more formal power level system for Commander got me thinking about how one could accurately quantify a Commander deck's power level, and the more I thought about it and discussed it with others, the more I came up with the following question. Could a point system work for Commander? Now, you may be familiar with the point system that Canadian Highlander uses, and I've actually seen many Magic the Gathering players suggest exploring how a similar system might work for Commander, both before and after this recent Commander shakeup, so that's what I did. In this video, I will outline how a point system would work for Commander. I will talk about the logic behind my ideas and why I think it could work. I also want to talk about the pitfalls of creating a formalized power level system for Commander and why I believe my proposed system circumvents many of these pitfalls. And please note, this proposal is intended as a thought exercise, a point of conversation and exploration, but it is by no means meant as a proposed solution. I really want to just outline this idea and then hear what people think of it, whether you think it would work, whether you think it will not work, and especially the reasons behind those beliefs. And to be 100% clear, I am not making this video under any assumption that Wizards of the Coast will see it and think, hey, let's scrap this whole bracket thing and create the exact same system that the professor suggested instead. No. I have the utmost respect for Gavin and the entire team of people currently working on this official bracket system. They have the format's best interests at heart, and they certainly have the knowledge necessary to create something that works. And I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing the complete breakdown of this bracket system plan that they come up with, and then discussing it in a future video. But I am making this video because I think I have an idea that could also work. I believe a point system for Commander has merit, and I want to share that idea with all of you. And even if you disagree with how this would work, through explaining and exploring your disagreement, you might discover the path to ideas and systems that you believe have more merit. And I love that. Sometimes through arguing against something, we can come up with ideas that actually work. And so, many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, can a point system work for Commander? I believe it could. Let's explore this idea. Oh, and by the way, if you are looking for an awesome storage solution for your giant collection of Commander decks, then boom! Whoa! Then maybe you should check out the many things from Thingamajigs, such as the Potamajigs, which are a great way for storing your Commander decks or even your cube. Potamajigs are a heavy-duty card storage box perfect for anything from Commander decks to your personal Magic cube. They're made of a fantastic heavy-duty board game box with a durable inner tray, all of which makes this a product built to last and take care of your collection. These can hold up to 9 double-sleeved Commander decks with room for tokens. All in all, it's a 1,000-plus card capacity, which means Potamajigs are also great for your cube. Potamajigs can hold a 360, 450, or 540 card cube, all with extra room for lands, tokens, and more. And what better way to organize that cube than with Cubamajigs, the reusable gaming packs that are also part of the Thingamajigs line. Perfect for Cubamajigs recreate the experience of opening a sealed pack of cards. They also serve as a great way to store and sideboard your cards together, and come with a wide range of color and artwork options. I love how there's room not only for my 9 double-sleeved Commander decks, but also for their many associated tokens. I can even fit these snap cases that I use for my Heads You Win, Tails You Lose Commander deck with the little things right in there. Look at that. It's fantastic. It also works for cubes, and I use the Cube-a-majigs for my Jumpstart half decks. There's just so many applications. Or just show off your cards by hanging them on your wall with frame-a-majigs. Don't worry though, frame-a-majigs keep your card easily accessible with this removable inner design that allows you to quickly and easily swap out and gain access to your card without the complication of having to pull apart a traditional frame. So whether it's a cool way to frame and display your cards and still have them accessible, reusable gaming packs for your cube, or just an entire pot-a-majig storage solution for said cube, or up to 9 double-sleeved commander decks. So be sure to check out the full line of things from Thingamajigs linked in this video's description, and thank you for sponsoring this video. Point system. Descriptive, not restrictive. A point system is a method for measuring game piece strength that's used in many different kinds of games beyond Magic the Gathering. Within Magic the Gathering, it's most prominently known as the system used for the player-created Canadian Highlander format. The idea is simple. Certain cards get assigned point values based upon their power level. In most cases, these point values are assigned alongside a point total ceiling. In Canadian Highlander, you can use any card legal in Vintage, but your deck can only contain a maximum of 10 points. Black Lotus is worth 7 points. Sol Ring is worth 4 points, and the 5 original Moxen are worth 3 points each. Now, I can feel you typing out a comment right now as you hear those words, so I have to clarify something about my proposed system right off the bat. Unlike Canadian Highlander, I am not proposing a point system that includes a point total limit. That is to say, while cards would be assigned point totals relative to their power level, there would not be a set number of points that a deck could contain. The goal of this proposed system is to be descriptive, not restrictive. I want players to be able to have pre-game conversations about their deck's power levels while talking about the same thing. This is not intended to hamper creativity or prevent you from putting all the strongest cards in your deck if that's what you want to do. The goal is to give players a framework for comparing the strength of their decks to one another, not to prevent players from playing against a stronger or weaker deck if that's what players want to do. So how might a point system work in Commander? For starters, all the strongest cards in the format, from Sol Ring to Lotus Petal, Swords to Plowshares to Fierce Guardianship, Skull Clamp to Phyrexian Altar, get assigned point values from, say, 1 to 10. The best cards are worth 10 points. The good but much less good cards are worth much less points. The vast majority of Commander legal cards are worth 0 points. A player would determine their deck's point total by calculating the sum total of all the points in their deck. At the same time, a points-based tier system could also be implemented. I think there's a lot of ways you can do this, but for example, if you're assigning between 0 and 10 points to each card, then here's one way you could break down the point tiers. Remember, of course, this is simply an example, but the highest point tier could be power level 5 for decks totaling 100 points or greater. This would be the no holds bar tier, home to CEDH decks and any other deck that wants to load up on fast mana, tutors, free spells, and easy to assemble infinite combos. Every card on a power level 5 deck is included for the explicit purpose of making the deck stronger, faster, and more resilient. These decks win quickly and consistently and are prepared to face off against other decks that do the same. Most of these decks win by assembling and protecting a combo. The next highest point tier would be power level 4, for decks totaling between 75 and 99 points. These point totals are not stress tested, mind you, but I'm including them to help you visualize what I'm proposing. If this system were to actually be implemented, there would need to be a lot of discussion and probably some trial and error to determine where the point demarcations should actually fall. But in our example for power level 4, we'll say 75 to 99 points. This would be a tier for high-powered but not necessarily CEDH decks. Power level 4 decks may include some, but not all, possible fast mana, tutors, and other cards that would be auto-includes on the basis of power level alone. These decks do their thing extremely well, but are not quite as consistent or resilient to disruption. Think optimized Prosper the Tome Bound, or Muldrotha the Gravetide 5 decks. Optimized versions of these decks are powerful, synergistic, but not quite as cutthroat as power level 5 decks. Next up would be power level 3 from 50 to 74 points. This is a tier I consider to be the optimized synergy level. These decks include all the best cards that synergistically belong with their commander, and not many that are just generically powerful regardless of who your commander is. Expensive cards that synergize well with the commander are not excluded for budgetary reasons. There's not much room for underpowered pet cards or other cards that are off-plan. Decks in this tier are too focused on these kinds of cards. On the other hand, there's not many generic tutors or much fast mana, apart from those that directly synergize, of course, such as a Blink deck running Recruiter of the Guard or a dedicated artifact deck running Mox Opal. These decks pack plenty of interaction and are prepared for opposing interaction, but aren't trying to win on turn 3, nor are they particularly capable of reliably preventing another deck from winning on turn 3. The second lowest tier is the power level 2 tier, for decks between 25 and 49 points. I call this tier the upgrades tier. These are decks that have made some improvements on a precon or other budget deck, but haven't been fully optimized. Maybe your deck would love a Nyx Bloom Ancient, but you've chosen not to spend the $30 necessary to acquire one. Still, you've likely cut the most off-plan cards from your precon for upgrades in the $5 to $20 range. Even after making some upgrades, there's still plenty of room in your deck for your favorite pet cards, or cards that may be weaker versions of other cards. Power level 1 would of course be the precon tier. Most, if not all, precons fall in this tier. Your budget decks do as well, as do many homebrews just made up of whatever cards you happen to already own. This is of course the most casual tier, though many decks in this tier can still compete with the tier above it. The Soul Ring problem, or how to account for powerful but ubiquitous cards. One of the fundamental problems with Commander power level discussions is the fact that many of the strongest cards in Commander are also the most ubiquitous. Soul Ring, Command Tower, and Arcane Signet all go in almost every Commander deck. Swords to Plowshares belongs in any white deck, Birds of Paradise in any green deck, Skullclamp often shows up in precons. So how do you categorize these cards? Do they deserve to belong in higher tiers alongside similarly powerful but less ubiquitous cards, or should they be grandfathered into a lower tier level with other less powerful cards that show up in precons? If you put them at the lower tiers, then that makes the system feel all the more arbitrary. But if you put them at the higher tiers, then you run the risk of categorizing precons at the same level as a CEDH deck. The reason I think a point system would and could work is because this system fully accounts for the existence of cards like Soul Ring without arbitrarily categorizing some powerful cards as casual with other powerful cards as competitive. Here's what I mean. Let's continue to assume that we're giving cards point values between 1 and 10. If we give, for example, Soul Ring a point value of 10, Skullclamp a point value of 4, and Swords to Plowshares and Command Tower point values of 1 each, then these 4 cards would combine for a total of 16 points. You have room for another 8 points worth of cards if you want them, without the deck reaching the next tier up. This feels appropriate for the power level of most precons and other casual or budget decks. If you establish a scale where Swords to Plowshares is a 1, Soul Ring is a 10, and every card weaker than Swords to Plowshares is a 0, then evaluating deck power level becomes simple. Skullclamp is, say, a 4, while Rhystic Study would be an 8. Chrome Mox, Time Twister, these cards are 10s. Maybe Tutors and the best-in-class free spells like Fierce Guardianship are 9s. Let's say the fetch lands are all 4s. If you have one, it won't buff the power level of your deck by too much, but if you're running every fetch land legal in your commander's color identity, all of a sudden you're looking at a power level boost of 24 or greater. That's enough to raise your deck a full tier. To me, that seems consistent with the kind of power level boost a mana base full of fetches provides. Again, I'm not actually proposing specific point value assignments for any specific card here. These are just examples to try to illustrate what a point system would do for Commander. We're starting from scratch, as Commander has never had anything like this. But while it would take time and, yeah, a lot of fine-tuning, I truly believe that a fully fleshed out version of this kind of descriptive point system could result in a reasonably accurate set of power level categories and therefore make pre-game conversations something tangible to work with. Some cards might need context-dependent point values. Maybe Thassa's Oracle is only worth a couple of points if you aren't playing Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact. But suddenly, Oracle, Consultation, and even Pact are all worth 10 points if they are present in the same deck list. Likewise, Underworld Breach might be an inoffensive 3 without Brain Freeze, but with both cards in the 99, they should jump to a 10 together. And you can get as granular as you want here, too. Combo pieces can have different values depending on whether they're actually being used and whether the card they combo with is in the command zone or merely in the 99. You'd of course have to weigh the benefits of getting specific with the cost of making things more complicated. But as long as you stick with what's intuitive, I believe you won't get into trouble. I think everyone can understand why Curiosity, for instance, might be a 0-point card if it's not being used to go infinite, but an 8-point card if either Niv Mizzet Parun or Firemind is in the command zone. And given that these point totals are meant as a tool rather than a hard and fast set of rules, playgroups can continue to self-regulate the way that they always have, using house rules to tweak the point systems to their liking or just ignoring them entirely. Now, there's an elephant in the room I haven't yet addressed: the commander ban list. I believe a ban list would still be a part of the system. Some cards are simply too powerful, too unattainable, or too unfun to be legal in Commander. And because there's no upper limit to the point totals, it's impossible to pseudo-ban or pseudo-restrict these cards just by assigning them a high point total. I believe this point system at its best would complement the ban list rather than be something that fully replaces the ban list. Honoring the spirit of Commander. Commander is and has always been a format about self-expression. Players want the freedom to build a deck that fits their playstyle, using all their favorite cards, without having to think too hard about whether all 99 of the cards they picked fit into a specific bracket or metagame. You can put, for example, a couple of cards that are CEDH staples in your deck without having to play against other CEDH decks as a result. When a player opens a sweet card like a fancy promo Vampiric Tutor or Mana Drain in a pack of a premium Commander set, that should unequivocally be an exciting moment regardless of the power levels of that player's decks. They should be able to slot that awesome, powerful card right into their favorite Commander deck without automatically disqualifying the deck from its previous power level bracket. The bracket system announcement mentioned a framework for a player who has a Tomb-themed Commander deck and wants to run Ancient Tomb without having to play against Bracket 4 decks. The article said that that player could tell their playgroup, "My deck is a 2 without Ancient Tomb, but a 4 with Ancient Tomb." That's all well and good, but why can't the deck just be a 2 with Ancient Tomb? With a point bracket system, if your Tomb-themed deck contained 30 points without Ancient Tomb, then you could freely add the Ancient Tomb to the deck without even coming close to stumbling into a higher tier. I think it's important that a power level discussion doesn't lose sight of the forest through the trees. Yes, formal power level tiers would make pregame conversations easier, but those pregame conversations are only worth doing if they make the subsequent game more fun. Therefore, accuracy in evaluation is incredibly important, as it is a built-in framework for understanding the nuance inherent to deck building in Commander. A descriptive, not restrictive point system is both simple enough to make for easy pregame conversations, while still allowing for the kind of granular nuance that comes with player self-expression. Creating a system like the one I've outlined in this video wouldn't be easy. It would take time. It may take some experimentation. Maybe there would be a beta testing period, similar to how Wizards of the Coast did when they created Pioneer. Player feedback would be immensely valuable throughout this process. This, of course, has just been one idea about how a point system could work for Commander, but I truly believe a point system would work for Commander. I feel that a well-designed point system could be precisely the thing that pre-game conversations have been needing to actually do what they're supposed to do: make games of Commander more fun. But now, most importantly, I would like to hear from you. What do you think about the practicality of a point system for Commander, either as I have outlined in this video or perhaps using some other implementation? Let me know in the comments below. A great exercise would be to watch the newest episode of Shuffle Up and Play with Pleasant Kenobi and One More Mana, where we all attempted to build what we thought were jank decks. Take a look at that video and let me know what bracket or point system would actually work for jank decks such as we play here. Also, it's a lot of fun and I'm just plugging it. Check it out, linked in the video description. And remember, if you are looking for Commander deck storage solutions, boom! Whoa! Then look no further than the many things from Thingamajigs, including the Potomajigs, which is perfect for your Commander collection or even your cube. So whether it's a cool way to frame and display your cards and still have them accessible, reusable gaming packs for your cube, or just an entire Potomajig storage solution for said cube, or up to 9 double-sleeved Commander decks, check out the links in this video's description for the full line of things from Thingamajigs, and thank you for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Today, the Proliferate Cube.
This is a cube where dice are the most important thing, and the Proliferate mechanic lets you do different stuff with them. So we have energy, we have poison counters, all kinds of cool stuff going on.
Carmen, if you think about it, you've created the cubiest cube because your cube needs the most little cubes.
Oh my god!
All right, third card.
Oh!
Wow, we're so happy and excited. It's so great. It's Rexa.
Playing a Johnny, Caller of the Pride.
I'm so dead.
Stop.
I'm so dead.
Ideally. What's your life total?
Alexa, play Sandstorm by Darude.
Why is it always Sandstorm by Darude?